when we see, and I'll probably just go now into probably some sprinkler faults that we see as far as sprinklers not popping up or water spurting out of the sides of them. Obviously I've used a Rainbow 5000 here as an example, but there's all gear drives are pretty much the same as far as how the errors can be. If a sprinkler's not going down, I'm sure you've seen plenty where you've just got to tap them down, or when they turn on, you'll see water shooting past during operation through the where the seals are. What's happening there is on the actual, this is just your riser stem, there's an actual O-ring inside here, or wiper seals. That sand's got inside there and is actually wearing, it's rubbing every time on that plastic and has scored the plastic, and so that tolerance between the rubber seal now is greater, so water can get by. So what's happening is you're getting water flowing past, bubbling around the sprinkler, a reduction in pressure on what's coming out of your nozzle, so you're getting, I guess, double hit because you're getting puddles here and not enough pressure out on your sprinkler. Depending on the nozzle, the sprinkler you've got, you can replace the wiper seal that's there by pulling them apart. That wiper seal costs more than the sprinkler as a part because we bring in thousands of these, and maybe 20 of the wiper seals. So it's honestly, if you had a wiper seal issue, I would say, and you're using the same sprinkler, it'd be honestly as simple as leaving that canister in the ground, like so, turning that station on, like taking this out, turning the station on and flush any debris out of there so it's all clean. Make sure you haven't got too much sand around that sprinkler. Getting a whole new sprinkler, but take the canister out of a new one, drop it in, redo it, and you're good to go. Because that costs, this is 19 to 25 depending on the type, versus I think it's 26 for a wiper seal. So just, it's sad, but the reality is just, yeah.
You want one part for a solenoid.
Correct.
It costs more. So
Diaphragms on a solenoid valve I sell them for $27, but I'll sell a valve for 19. Do you know what I mean? Because, and half the time if someone's really adamant and they'll say, I don't want a valve, I don't even hold the diaphragm. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll just pull a valve. I literally consume a valve, give them a diaphragm, and I've made more money. But I'm like, you could have had the whole valve for less.
And DC and FC coils, like it's cheaper to buy the DC coil and the
valve separately.
Rather than buying a DC solenoid with a DC coil. Okay. So,
and that's how we sell them now. So if we do a DC system for someone in residential, we'll sell them that AC valve, and then they'll get bags of DC coils at the same time. Yep. Yep. And the reason being is we're paying an Australian manufacturer that imports the Hunter product to be doing that. And so then I pay that, and then I've obviously got to put a percentage on my product. And so then at the end result is you guys pay more, whereas it takes you guys 10 seconds and you've saved $8 on a valve. So, you're not. And then if you did need to keep spare coils, you've got them. Yeah. Other than that, from a sprinkler not popping down, that's the main reasons. Obviously, when that happens, that tolerance tends to get a little bit iffy, and so then that riser stem could be sitting on an angle, so it doesn't want to come down anymore. Just replace it. What we do see is you've probably seen the stainless steel riser stems that have come out as well. The misconception there is they are not any stronger from a vandalism point of view. They are there for the protection of the wiper seal and the riser stem only. The mechanics inside them and whatever, it's only a thin wrap of stainless. It's purely if you knew you're in heavy sandy situations, stainless is great because it does prolong that plastic from scoring. Obviously the sand doesn't get a chance, and then when it turns on, the idea behind these is they're a tapered seal. So the riser is tapered. So as they turn on, water's meant to come out because it's flushing any dirt that has settled there. And as it gets to the top, it's fatter at the bottom, and it pushes against that seal, and you'll see, you've probably seen sprinklers turn on and they bubble. That's water flushing away. and then they seal, and then the water's good to go. The beauty of like the 5000, for example, is when they then turn down, they flush, but at the same time, they've actually, all their screw ports are actually have water ports through them as well. So you don't get dirt and debris in the top of the gear drives. They're actually, you'll see them out of some of the nozzles and stuff, they're squirting water up in the air because they're actually clearing out the ports. So then you go to get a screwdriver in there and you're not flicking debris out, you're actually, the intention is you should be able to get a better grab and actually make some adjustments to them. Beyond that, the only thing you'll get if you've got block sprinklers coming through and what have you, is you'll be able to take your sprinkler out, and obviously most of them are all just open flow case like that. So take all this out, give that a good flush in your system, and it's a good practice if you're on recycled water systems and stuff, or they've been new mainline work. Sometimes you're like, all of a sudden, someone's done work near your jobs and you turn your sprinklers on and your last sprinklers are they're just trickling out. It's normally because shit's finally got through, makes its way to the end of the rotor, and it's sitting in the bottom of here, or it's inside here. In these, obviously turn that on, flush that, and then give this a check. Obviously this has got a check valve in it, but it's also got a screen on it, which is a little filter. Just rinse that out, make sure it's okay, check inside that nothing sort of got through, like, you know, that long stringy duckweed can tend to get in some things as well, especially if you're pumping from ponds and what have you. Put all that back in, put it all back together, set your arcs, and you're good to go. So that can be a simple thing that I see people have gone, sprinkler shit, I'm buying another one. Granted, it's only $22, but that adds up over the years, and then when all you needed to do was just wash that out and your sprinkler was fine to go. So happy to sell them, but there is other maintenance practices there as well. So
you've got spare ones, change it out, take that one back to the yard, clean it up.
Yeah, and the golf guys do that a lot. They're like, I'm not sitting around fixing rotors, I just bring a spare with me that might have already had a maintenance job done on it, and they'll drop a whole, because I mean they're $390 rotors, so they'll drop the whole internal into that and then go back and put a new parts on them and clean them all up, and then that becomes the spare ready for the next fix. So if you're doing any spray jobs, MP rotators, like smaller garden areas, obviously you use a bit more of these spray bodies, obviously whether it's Rainbird or Hunter, or even some of the other stuff like Popes and stuff like that as well, if you happen to have any of that out there. The same process, obviously they're all tapered, so there's a bit more play earlier on, and then once that comes up, that seals against that white O-ring that we've got here, and that stops that coming. When these are bubbling, that's because it's scoring and sand's got in and it's damaged that. You can get, in the Hunter, you can get a replacement seal, not in the Rainbird. I think America they do them, but they don't bring them into Australia. It's a $2.50 part for the sprinkler body. So the time taken to replace that part, and the difference being, and the reason they've said that as well is because if you change that seal, that's fine. You've changed the seal on that sprinkler, but the riser stem's still scratched. So you've only fixed 50% of the problem. And so I just think, well, just replace the sprinkler. And the nozzle might be okay. Still keep the nozzle, because the nozzles, like MP rotators, are $10 a nozzle. That, you know, I mean, that's where your money's at. These spray bodies are, I wouldn't say disposable, but they're, from a repair point of view, they are disposable. You throw them away and put a new one in. So is there any other questions regarding like maintenance of sprinklers or adjustments of sprinklers that you guys haven't done? All good with that? Yep. Probably the only other thing was articulated risers is another one. Obviously, if you're doing commercial installs, if we're coming out of our solenoid valve, and this is just an example of how we like to set commercial sprinklers versus just burying. Traditionally, we would see from a residential situation, we've got a threaded fitting sitting underneath and we just screw that straight into the ground. That's fixed. I can't adjust that. There's no height variations there other than digging out and moving the pipes or trying to dig them, push them down and what have you. That's stuck there. What we tend to do in a commercial sense is we use what's called an articulated riser, and we use that with a female threaded fitting. So instead of that male fitting sitting upright going straight into the sprinkler, we side mount this in a trench, and what we do is we put these onto that fitting. I don't know if you've done, you would have articulated risers on. So, yep. Yep. So every new install, always as an industry standard, wherever possible, because obviously sometimes we're restricted how deep our trenches can get and what have you, is obviously this is a PVC fitting. We do them in poly. If you were doing a black 19mm system as well, you can put them in, and they're great when it's a new build and you don't have your heights perfectly set yet, because you can always come back and adjust. Or if you're top dressing sites over the years, obviously that builds up, so we want to bring our sprinklers up. We put this in, no thread tape at all required on any of this, including going into a sprinkler, no thread tape at all. It's all tapered threads. So that always, if this is your trench bed, so that's sitting on the bottom of your trench, we try and set these at 45 degrees. All right, because that gives us as much this way as we have this way. You know what I mean? We don't want to be setting our sprinkler there, because I'm like, well, how do I get that down? I now have to move that sprinkler away to be able to do any movement. So it's always the case we want to set them to 45 degrees. And the beauty of this now is we can actually, we've got our thread sitting here. And these come in varying heights too. So 150, 200, 300 and 450. So standard is 300. I think this is a 200mm one. And that's just that riser piece there as well. When I say 200mm, it's a 200mm riser that they've used to make that. But that's what you would see in a commercial, in any commercial sprinkler situation, is your articulated riser and your sprinkler sitting on there. The beauty of this is it allows us to adjust that sprinkler this way and this way without moving any of that pipe. That pipe stays there. We can actually set our sprinklers. And obviously when we see sprinklers that are, you know, popping up and they're doing that, well, that's easy. We dig around that sprinkler, we can move that sprinkler back up, get that nice to grade, pack our soil around, put our sod back in, do what we need to do, and we're good to go. A deviation like that on an oval destroys your uniformity of how evenly you're distributing water versus just bringing it back to square. These things are giving out 25 to 26 degrees trajectory. There's science behind it, and then you go and change all that by this, and that happens. It's a soft soil when a mower's gone and pushed that, and it's, you know, things happen. Just being aware, these are handy if you're doing new jobs. To use these as well. And again, if you're stuck, you can obviously change your heights that you need. So, is there any other questions? I've pretty much covered, I think, everything I can. If there's anything else that you guys want, obviously it doesn't have to be today either. You're more than welcome to. I've got my details up there. Scott's got Mudgie's details as well. We are more than happy to. You've come across something that you've never dealt with before, flick me an email, we'll help as well. I'm more than happy to help. There's no invoice attached to the back of it. It's just help. I'm happy to help out. So, anything else?
That's good, mate. Thanks, mate.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it. Cool.